everyone. Hope everybody is doing well. Give me 1 sec, folks. Okay, so I am hoping that today's sound will be a lot better. The last podcast I actually had to... Sorry, let me just put the volume of the sound down. The last podcast I actually had to delete that because the sound was just so bad for the first 15 minutes. So please... I know it's a bit annoying. It's just the nature of the country that I'm in. You know, Wi-Fi is just, it's just not the strongest. So if ever you're listening to my podcast and the sound is just all over the place, especially in the beginning, please do let me know. Because I listened to yesterday's podcast back and literally the first 15 minutes you couldn't really even listen to it. I mean, I'm grateful for you all because you're so patient with stuff like that, but I would never ever want anyone new coming to the podcast to think that that's the quality of the podcast all the time. And even for you all who've been around for a long time, I don't want you putting up with that type of quality of podcast. Okay, so unfortunately I did have to delete the last podcast where we were talking about Sentebale, but I'm gonna do a quick recap and also an update on, you know, what has been said since then, because we've got a couple of updates and also some interesting theories from squaddies as to why Mark Dyer, who is Harry's nearest and dearest, why he was dragged in. Because I heard this name Mark Dyer and I was like, wait, isn't that who, you know, Harry talked about him in Spare? But I wasn't, maybe my memory just misses me, but I was like, wait, I don't understand why they would pull him into this. And then when I read the squaddies take, I was like, oh, okay, now this is making sense. And we will get into, so I'm going to do a podcast on this now, just an update on the Sentebale situation. And then we will do another podcast. And yes, Harry and Meghan begin their tour today because I'm on the other side of the planet. For me, it's today. It's past midnight here. So that'll be great because I'll actually be able to update on Instagram pretty much in real time, update on Twitter pretty much in real time, and then have like a good full podcast by the time we get to the evening. So much to look forward to. And yes, we will discuss it in the next podcast, but Harry and Meghan were at the home of the Netflix CEO. Hardy ha ha ha. What an epic clapback. But it's not even a clapback. It's just Harry and Meghan minding their business. And every single time, the haters end up with eggs on their faces because all they do is lie. And lying for what? Whoever that writer was at Variety article, how stupid do you feel? Anyway, let's get into this whole Sophie Chandauka thing, Sentebale thing, and then we'll get into the other podcasts later. So let's start with this. Let me just get out my Okay, so the first really weird thing about all of this, well, there's many weird things. Let's just do a quick recap for those who might be new to the story. So, Sophie Chandauka was asked to step down after she mismanaged funds and was causing trouble at Sentebale. She could have done so very quietly without any issues. Instead, she decided to concoct a plan to do a hostile takeover. Turns out she was giving money to close confidants and associates and overspending on things like PR, giving contracts to consultants, PR people, what have you not, and misusing. Then orchestrated a hostile takeover. The board stepped down. The charity's founders, Prince Ciso and Prince Harry, also stepped down. She then went on a media tour. Oh no, sorry. She then put in her own new board. Pretty much all of them stepped down. I think the only person who's still left is Ian Rowlinson, who is linked to Prince William, and I think there's maybe one other person who was on the initial board that Sophie Chandauka brought in. I think that those individuals who joined the board after Harry and Prince Ciso stepped down, I think they all need to be investigated. Because this was a clear hostile takeover. I think they were promised things that maybe I don't know if they were given those things or what. But for you as a professional in the charity space, in the corporate space, to join a board during the hostile takeover of an organization like this, headed by the Prince Harry, are you insane? First of all, why damage your reputation like that? Secondly, what did Sophie Chandauka promise you? And then you step down anyway, running away with your tails between your legs. Haven't heard from any of those people since. And I hope the next time we do hear from them, they're being dragged to court to answer some questions. Now, time is going. Sophie Chandauka clearly has not been able to raise any additional funds. Sentebale had to go crawling to Twitter asking for donations, and I think it was a £50 donation was all they got. She accused Harry of bullying. She went on a whole tour, a media tour, accusing Harry of all sorts. Quite frankly, it's Harry that has, I think, more in his back pocket to sue her. Not just for slander and libel, but all the financial mess that Sophie Chandauka has caused. Also, she has a history of doing this, by the way. That's another thing that we found out. She has a history of doing this. I think that there should be further investigations into some of her past dealings. And then there was also the links to, or the way in which she's trying to use Sentebale to leverage her own startup. She has this so-called Nandi Life Sciences, and the page that had the board on Nandi Life Sciences. Well, the website initially went down, and the page that had the board has disappeared now. But she's still trying to use Sentebale to do goodness knows what with that weird science startup that she's got going on. And now fast forward, days to go, Sentebale has been silent. I mean, they've shut down whatever operations they were actually having in Lesotho. I think they've shut down UK offices as well. It's not like they can afford to keep them running. And then from nowhere, oh, sorry, I left a piece out. The Charity Commission, the corrupt Charity Commission in the UK did an investigation, found that Sophie's bullying allegations were false, but what they didn't do was actually investigate her for any of her own corruption and the trouble that she's caused. Oh, hey, Lane Parker, I feel like I haven't seen you for a while. You doing good? How are you feeling? And so they tried to kind of spread blame between Sophie Chandauka and Prince Harry's camp when it's 100% all her fault. Her and her minions. So the Charity Commission cleared Harry of bullying because those are very serious allegations, but they did not put the blame squarely where it should have been. Oh, you're doing so much better. I'm so glad to hear that, Elaine Parker. So happy to have you here. I'm glad you're doing better. And so we are days before Harry and Meghan's tour. This latest lawsuit was filed a month ago, and we only hear about it with days to go until Harry and Meghan's tour. This is clearly orchestrated. This is clearly a distraction. They do this every single time. Every single time Harry and Meghan have something big going on, they come and think of something. This is just my theory. I state this for entertainment purposes only. I think that William is funding this whole thing. I said what I said. This is why he's selling off farmland. This is why we're running around getting cash money bags from goodness knows who. Because who is backing this? And that's the question we're going to look at today. Because Sentebale are now claiming that they're using external funding to sue Prince Harry and Mark Dyer. So this so-called external funding, thank you so much for the super sticker, Elaine Parker, very much appreciated. This so-called external funding, who is it from? Oh, can I also just say, sorry, before I get into it, Callie Jen, if you are listening, thank you so much for your donation. I haven't talked about it yet because I haven't got the new samples of packaging, which I should be getting tomorrow. But I am going to be doing an update on my candle line, and I do have a wish list going for that. And Callie Jen, you did very generously donate $50 to that. I did see that, so I just wanted to say thank you for that. You must have just seen it when I posted it in the weekly update, but for those of you who are waiting for update about what's going on with my candle line, I should be getting the updated packaging tomorrow, so I will do a full update on that. That is coming, because a couple people were asking. It is coming. Okay, and so where are they getting this money? So let's have a read at this. Sentebale claims they're using external funding to sue Prince Harry and Mark Dyer. Oh, Callie Jen, you are there. Thank you so much. That's so much appreciated. Full update coming tomorrow, folks. So, hang on a sec. I've got to... Oh, I think the article is here. Here we go. Okay, so the Charity Commission investigated slowly, then found that Harry had not bullied Chandauka or anything like that. The Commission stopped short of placing blame on either party. During the Commission's investigation, almost all of the trustees left Sentebale and Chandauka replaced some of them. She brought in Ian Rawlinson, a close ally of Prince William, further into Sentebale's leadership. Rawlinson and Chandauka have overseen a near complete collapse of funding. They've closed down Sentebale's offices and they don't seem to be operating Sentebale's Lesotho-based Centre for Children anymore. And it was Sophie's claim that Harry was destroying his own charity. Excuse me, Harry was the draw, so was Meghan. And now Sentebale is suing Prince Harry, a former Sentebale trustee, Mark Dyer, for defamation, slander and libel. Chandauka apparently filed the lawsuit in March, but the news dropped on Friday, just days before the Duke and Duchess of Sussex head to Australia. Later in the day, on Friday, Mark Dyer and Prince Harry released a statement. A spokesperson for the Duke of Sussex and Mark Dyer tells People, as Sentebale's co-founder and founding trustee, they categorically reject these offensive and damaging claims. It is extraordinary that charitable funds are now being used to pursue legal action against the very people who built and supported the organisation for nearly 2 decades, rather than being directed to the communities the charity was created to serve. And I don't mean to laugh, folks. I really don't mean to laugh, because this is not a laughing matter, but have you ever seen anything so ridiculous? Have you ever seen anything so ridiculous? So you do a hostile takeover of a charity. You claim that the person who who founded the charity, is messing up funding. The same Prince Harry who donated, what was it, 1.3 million of his own book deal money. You claim that person who donated over 1 million of his own money, who's been able to get funding for the charity up until this point. In fact, the charity was doing so well, it made more money during the COVID era when most charities were struggling. And then you come on board, you completely mess up the finances because you're just spending money and pushing money into nefarious places, into your close associates. And then Prince Harry and the founders and the board have to step down themselves. You fail to raise money, and now you, the one that did the hostile takeover, is suing the former founder when you have not been able to raise any more money. Have you ever seen anything so ridiculous? And now any funds that might be left, you're using to pursue legal action. And it could also be that you're having to get money to pursue legal action from other nefarious sources. Meanwhile, what has happened to all of the children that were in dire need of the services that Sentebale was offering? They're almost a footnote now in this whole story because of Sophie Chandauka and whoever is backing her because of their selfishness. You've just never seen anything so ridiculous. Yes, C-Mac. Nice to see you. The squad also stopped contributing. Pretty much everyone I know in the squad who was giving monthly donations stopped their donations. So Sentebale has commenced legal proceedings in the High Court of England and Wales. The charity seeks the court's intervention, protection and restitution following a coordinated adverse media campaign conducted since March the 25th, 2025, that has caused operational disruption and reputational harm to the charity, its leadership and its strategic partners. The proceedings have been brought against Prince Harry and Mark Dyer, identified through evidence as the architects of that adverse media campaign, which has had significant viral impact and triggered an onslaught of cyberbullying directly at the charity and its leadership. Excuse me, who went on a whole media tour talking about how Prince Harry and the board of directors were bullying her? Was that not Sophie Chandauka herself? And they're bringing Prince Harry and Mark Dyer into this, and we're going to get into Mark Dyer and why he's been dragged into this in a minute. Notice how Prince Seeso is not even mentioned. You know why? Because Prince Seeso is a footnote as far as the people who are trying to go after Prince Harry are concerned. Because this is all about bringing down Harry. This isn't about anything else. Joan Garcia, thank you so much for the super chat. You said, what is wrong with the British authorities for not putting Sophie in jail? Are they really total royalists? Well, I mean, with the Charity Commission, we actually found links to the palace. There are people on the board of the Charity Commission. And thank you so much, Joan Garcia. There are people on the board of the Charity Commission who have OBEs, CBEs. And then there was also a link to somebody who was on the Charity Commission, who's on the board of another organization that Camilla's son, or was it, no, not her son, her nephew was also on the same board. So there was definitely some links with these people. 6 degrees of snaky separation. So the Sentebale released a super long statement. So the costs of doing so are met entirely by external funding, and no charitable funds have been used. So this is what they're saying about the court case. So Sentebale is facing an enormous funding crisis and donor crisis, yet they have external funding available to sue Prince Harry and Mark Dyer. Where does this external funding come from? Why won't anybody in the press ask that? Exactly. Where are the so-called journalists? Why won't anybody in the press ask? The charity should not continue to use its resources to manage and address the damage this adverse media campaign has caused to its operations and partnership. What in God's green earth is Sophie Chandauka talking about? Because the person that has done all the damage is her. The crisis is entirely her own making. So what does she mean in her statement when she says the charity should not continue to use its resources to manage and address the damage this adverse media campaign has caused? She's the one using the resources and wasting time. No one forced her to spend money on consultants who never delivered. No one forced her to peddle her lies to the Charity Commission just so she could avoid being ousted as a chairwoman for her gross incompetence. No one forced her to go on a public tour smearing Sentebale's co-founder, not to mention the co-founder's wife. No one forced her to commit a hostile takeover of a small, worthy charity. She is deranged and infuriating. It doesn't make any sense because it is all just one big plot to stick a dagger into Harry's back. Yes, this is all going to come out eventually. So now, even the Charity Commission, which quite frankly didn't even do a good job the first time, is now questioning this lawsuit. Now they are questioning this. Another thing that I actually didn't think about is Sophie Chandauka being as close to Harry and Meghan as she got. I mean, I don't think she would have had intel to anything too important. And I think one of the things that made Sophie angry was that she was not really allowed within their inner circle. But I do think any little bit of information, behind the scenes stuff that she did get, I believe that she has become a source, or she was a source for some of these trolls like Tom Bauer. I think she's been a source. Anyway, the Charity Commission is now smelling BS. Mind you, the exact details of this defamation claim have not been made public. All that Sophie Chandauka has said in this frivolous lawsuit is they are seeking the court's intervention, protection, and restitution, following what it says is a coordinated adverse media campaign. I mean, I think Prince Harry at this point has maybe released 3 statements, and all pretty surface level. I mean, it's not really like Harry and his people have to do too much. Just let Sophie, give her the rope. Just give her the rope. And I think they're giving her enough rope to make a fool of herself. And the next report, charity money report, is really going to expose her. So, the decision to sue appears to be a significant escalation, which a leading charity law expert said was likely to attract further regulatory scrutiny. While charities are permitted to bring legal action without formal approval, Charity Commission guidance says it should not be a last resort. The regulator says legal action can present significant risk to a charity's beneficiaries, assets, and reputation. Exactly, who's going to donate now? Because I don't even think getting new donors was ever the goal. The goal is just reputational damage and emotional damage to Harry at the expense of those children that really needed these services. Trustees must ensure decisions are in the best interest of the charity. Further questions have been raised about how the legal action is being funded. Sentebale said it was not using charitable funds and was instead relying on external funds. Okay, who are these external funds? So we can get external funds for a lawsuit, but we can't get external funds for Sentebale, for the charity itself. But we can get money for lawsuits. You can't make it up. However, it declined to answer further questions from the Times this week. Whether they were current or previous donors, whether the funders are linked to Chandauka or other trustees, and whether protections were in place to safeguard the charity if a legal action went wrong. A close source to the Duke of Sussex said, whether they're using external or internal funds for the case, that money could still be used to support the charity's work. Indeed. Robert Nerin, a legal director and charity lawyer at Shoesmiths, said the potential impacts of the legal action were significant. He said there was a risk of legal action taking a lot of time and effort on the part of the trustees, which could distract from the charity's main objectives, and added the charity would need to convince the watchdog that there were no other reasonable options. The charity is really going to have to answer the question, how is that going to be advanced the charity's objects and purposes, he said. It looks high stakes. It seems a sort of matter where there are going to be no winners. Listen, the biggest loser is going to be Sophie Chandauka. I mean, the Charity Commission can just eat ish for all I care. They really avoided calling out Sophie Chandauka the first time for her bizarre, slanderous and criminal behaviour. And they showed just great indifference to her hostile takeover of Sentebale. And now there's this unhinged escalation on behalf of these so-called external donors. And the thing is, as and when this goes to court, and I believe this will go to court, we're going to find out who those external donors are. We'll find out. Lottie said, tell me this, who won't to see Harry fail but William? That's why only Harry and his friend are being sued. Indeed. Yes, Mark is close to Harry. He was in Botswana when Harry and Meghan went there while they were dating. Willie boy cut off anyone close to Harry. Indeed. And this is the reason why I think they're trying to pull Mark Dyer into this. Because of Harry's closeness to him. And who else would understand exactly how close Mark is to Harry other than William? Sherry said, Sophie is on her way out. She's looking for an exit strategy and using Harry as a scapegoat, meanwhile tarnishing his reputation. I mean, where does Sophie even go after this? If she is being paid and financed, I mean, that money's not going to be rolling in forever. There will be an end point to this, and the beginning of the end will be when we see those financial reports and they have to answer, Sophie has to answer, Ian Rowlinson has to answer as to why it is they did all of this, claiming that it was Harry that was destroying his charity. And I also think this lawsuit is actually all part of a bigger plan to try and make any blame fall on Harry. Because if they can try and create this narrative where, oh, it's Harry's fault that Sentebale suffered reputational damage, then I think Sophie Chandauka and whoever is backing her think that they can get away with all of this, when really all you have to do is follow the money, where she was sending it, her close associates. That is a big conflict of interest. So like I said, I do believe that this will eventually all go to court, but I think they're just waiting. They're just giving Sophie Chandauka and whoever is helping her enough rope. That's all. And you've got to remember that the last financial report was still being propped up partly by Harry's large donation from Spare and any money that was left in the reserves. Lady T said to sue for defamation when she went on a whole press tour saying, trying to defame everyone, even if not involved with the charity, i.e. Meghan, it should be thrown out. Yeah, this is a waste of court's time. I think Harry needs to counter sue her for defamation, but also for the misuse of funds. That'll be the easiest to get her on. The misuse of funds. Helen, you said the Charity Commission have no backbone. Indeed, they don't. Lady said the ones that are losing are the ones who benefited from the charity. It's a damn shame. Indeed. And also another thing is, I think the lawsuit also has to include the impact that this had on the people who are using their services, the children that were being supported. Everything that, Sentebale built for them, just taken away from them. Is it Hibiscus Noel? Yeah. To be honest with you, I think that the sale of the land is probably paying for a few things. I don't believe that William is just randomly selling off farmland for nothing. Literally liquidating assets. All right, folks. You can probably hear in my voice that I am quite tired. I was gonna do a podcast straight after this, but I think I'm gonna. I think I was being a little bit too ambitious. So I'm gonna leave that podcast scheduled, but I'm just gonna move it to early morning my time. So it'll be good because we'll have an early morning podcast, and then Harry and Meghan will have their lovely first day, and then I can report about it in the evening. All right. So thank you all so much. Thank you everyone for your donations. Much appreciated. And yeah, we will catch up again in a few hours when I wake up. See you later, folks. Ciao.